Yeah, just watch your back, Tom, in case anyone comes in. All right. Nice view, eh? Look at that, the kind of clouds are burning off here at the old course. Something very spiritual about this place. I'll not get too deep this early in the morning. Okay, St Andrews. Golf shops. Okay. There's only one big one that comes to mind when you think St Andrews and you think Auchterlonies. It's been here for, well, we'll find out exactly, but 100 years. It's an awesome shop. It's about... I reckon it's 40 yards from here, from the 18th green. So, amazing spot. We're going to go in and meet a gentleman there called Adam Legg. Now, if you live in St Andrews, you'll know Adam. He is someone that can build you a set of clubs from scratch. So, very experienced custom fitter, club builder. This guy loves golf clubs more than anyone I think I've ever met. And we're going to go meet him. They've built some new fitting and teaching bays, I believe in Auchterlonies, and then we're going to go in and find them right now. So let's go see him. Let's see what he's all about.
Something like that.
Right, show us about.
What do you want to see?
This,
what do you want to see? Workshop first, or?
Oh, both. Yeah.
Well, let's do workshop first.
Okay.
Let's do workshop.
It's like a maze. It's awesome.
It is like a maze. Again, step, head, all that sort of stuff. So
step, head.
It is all happening, mate.
Look at this.
I came on board in 2001, start 2001, and this was just like an old coal shed. So kind of sat down with Bobby and said, look, I want a workshop. Obviously, my time down at the links.
Yep.
I had a tour level workshop.
Yep.
And with them closing down their offering down the road, I wanted to make a point of keeping that offering in the town. So kind of set about just redoing this, and that was the first project that I was involved with, and obviously bought in all the machinery, golf mechanic stuff, and kind of laid it out as if it were a little tour.
I mean, it looks like it. This is when you see the videos of the tour vans. This is what you see.
It's not. Yeah, we've done well with the space we've got. It could do with being twice the size, but it's handy. I can build clubs in here. We've got component accounts with Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade. We do Muras as well. Obviously, massive brand. So,
and what's a typical build for you? Is it coming from the custom fit and it's a brand new build? Is it folk wanting to tinker with their setups? Is it all of the above?
A little bit of both, actually. A little bit of both. It's it's obviously driven from the custom fit side.
Yeah.
I'll do fits upstairs and a lot of driver builds. We've got, when we get up there, I'll kind of show you my kind of philosophy in terms of doing what I call stock fits, but then also doing bespoke fits, like your sort of higher end places.
Yep.
But then, we also get customers that kind of just know what they want and approach me and say, look, I want you to build this.
Yeah.
When you build this set of irons. There's a nice black set of Titleist there that I've just built up this week.
Oh, come on.
Limited edition. So
they look mean.
So build them up at the start of the week, black Taurus UX1s, and then Golf Pride Align Max. So
that's stunning.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing that we can do here.
Yeah. Which
is something.
So that looks like a players club, that.
Yeah. The boy that is going to use them thinks he can play.
Love the honesty.
He'll hate me for saying that.
Love the honesty.
He's a +3 golfer. He can hit a good ball.
Okay, he
can get it round.
This is cool, man.
But yeah, I mean, look, it's cozy, but we've made use of the space. You know, we've got all grips and stuff in here. So, you know, so it kind of functions a bit like a tour truck. You know, we've got shafts aplenty, you know, stuff like that. Iron shafts, wood shafts.
Grapholoid blue.
Yeah, that was the re-release. So
was it?
Exactly the same recipe.
Oh my god!
Just re-released. So I've got, you know, some nice limited edition stuff in there.
This is Aladdin's.
Yeah, it's good. You know, we've got iron shafts round the top again, kind of having to use the space above. So yeah, but you know, in here we also do a lot of repairs. You know, the town airlines. You know, we're BA's biggest fan. The amount of clubs that they break.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
So the
broken drivers and stuff like that is grand. You know, I mean,
this is the place to come in town. I said that we did a little intro outside, but you've really taken over as, you know, the master club builder in the town.
Yeah, and it's only me that's doing it in town.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, there's nowhere else. I mean, there's other places you can get grips and that done, and there is other smaller repair centres, but given the proximity to the golf course, you know, the relationship we have with the folk in town, you know, caddies and stuff like that, 9 times out of 10, they're going to
send the custom your way.
You know, the tour ops guys, you know, the buses.
Yeah.
You know, if I mean, it's not uncommon that I'll get a phone call, you know, breakage up at Carnoustie. You know, we're coming back down the road in 2 hours. Can we drop the club in, have it ready in an hour or so? Absolutely. You know, the way I can work in here, I can turn around a broken driver in 30 minutes.
Jeez, that's amazing.
You know,
I didn't think it'd be that quick.
Yeah, you know, I've done it before where I've repaired an iron while the customer waits for 15 minutes. You know, we've got quick dry glue.
Okay.
Same stuff they use on like the TaylorMade tour truck, the Titleist tour truck. That stuff cures in about 15 minutes. The customer can take it away, leave it for another couple hours, and then he can hit it.
Right.
So, you know, if need be, we can do
service.
Yeah, and again, it's just you try and cater to the locals, but also the tourists.
Yeah.
You know, there is people that are here only for a day, half a day.
Yeah.
So if they want something, it's nice to be able to offer that. You can't always do it.
Yeah.
You know, a customer yesterday was only here yesterday evening, needed a shaft, didn't have it.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some, right? It's you know, if I stocked everything in here, I wouldn't have room to move. So I've got to be selective with what we've got.
Yeah.
And like anything, you know, I've been doing it 10 years, so I kind of know what to focus on and what not to focus on. But you do get some requests that you can't cater to, or some folk are fine and you can get it ordered in. My suppliers are great.
Yeah.
You know, I could order a Ventus shaft, say, today, and if they were delivering on a Saturday, it would be here tomorrow.
Right.
You know, but generally during the week, I can get, as long as it's ordered by cut-off time, I can get the shaft here next day.
Okay. Amazing.
So it's beneficial to us. You know, the suppliers are great. The service is we try and excel in the service, and that's something I preach. You know, I do all the repairs because I want stuff done at a high standard.
Yeah.
You know, I was always taught, imagine another club builder critiquing your stuff.
Yeah.
And anything I do in here, I need to know that if it's taken to another club builder back in America, they're going to look at it and think, it's a job well done.
Yeah.
I don't want them to look at it and think, this has been a botched job, this has been a rush job.
Yeah.
So everything has to be done with a level of detail, whether it's a reshaft. Yeah, it is.
That, mate. I love
you know, whether it's a reshaft or a complete build, everything's treated the same way.
Yeah.
You know, everything's kind of worked to a tolerance. I've got calibration clubs in here, so, you know, I'm not...
In terms of, a stock factory, off the shelf, there's a tolerance, what would that be? And then what is yours?
You know, look, the manufacturers are getting better, right? I think the manufacturers get a bad rap still. There's still certain places in the world that will turn around and say that big companies can't build clubs because it's mass produced. I think they're getting better. I think, you know, you poke the bear, they're going to fight back. And these companies have so much money that over time they'll get tighter tolerances just to basically... to tell these smaller companies to shut up. You know, these big companies don't like being told that they can't build stuff right. And yes, okay, they might work to a bigger tolerance, but, you know, Titleist, for example, the stuff that comes from them, it's pretty tight. You know, if I need to do adjustments, it's not big adjustments. You know, I mean, I work to 0.2 of a tolerance in here because I can. you know, Titleist probably worked to maybe a degree, half a degree of tolerance, which I know looks, people are going to say that's big, and it is, but it can be tightened up really quick.
Yeah.
You know, and for places like that to be pumping out as many clubs as they are, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, so we have the benefit, and I'll explain this a little bit more upstairs, that, you know, if I'm fitting stuff that we're ordering from the OEM, I can check it.
Mm-hmm.
If need be. You know, if things can come in here, I can double check everything on the loft and line machine. I've got a calibration club from Titleist, so I know how their machines read.
Yeah.
So then I can have my machines read the same way.
Okay.
I've got a calibration club from Mizuno. I've got a calibration club from Callaway. I've got a small calibration club there behind you for loft and lie, so I know what that's sitting at.
Yeah.
And I actually brought that from my previous job.
Right.
I measured that on the previous loft and line machine.
Yeah, so explain that to me. So I'm getting a bit lost here. So that's what does that do for you?
So
does that give you the gold standard?
Yeah, so that's set to 34 and 62. So if I put that in there, if I measure it on the digital calipers, it should say 34 and 62. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't, I just need to adjust it. Mm-hmm. That's absolute. Mm-hmm. These can obviously, over time, over a couple of days of work, can just go out of tolerance a little bit. I just put that back in and tighten everything up.
Okay.
So that's kind of a daily thing for me, that I'll put that in there, just make sure everything's tight. So if I'm doing a set of loft and lies.
That's amazing.
And again, that was just, you know, it was the training from the previous job.
Yeah.
Was just to be super tight.
Yeah.
You know.
And was that Ed Robertson? Was that filtered down from Ed?
It was filtered down from Ed.
Yeah.
You know, Martin Jones was, look, he was that, you know, to tolerance.
Yeah.
Everything had to be clean. Everything had to be built well. Yeah. And then obviously I worked, you know, me and Greg.
Yes.
You know, Big Greg, we just worked to that same standard. That was set, and it had filtered down from what was applied golf technology into when the links bought over and Martin, you know, managed the facility. He ran it to such a high standard, whether it was the repairs, the builds, or the fitting.
Yep.
You know, doing 5.5 years there under him and Greg as well, just helped me kind of be confident in coming up here and giving that same service to the customers. And
proper apprenticeship.
Yeah, you know, and the town was used to that. Yeah. We couldn't go backwards. You know, there was no chance of that. You'd get found out in a heartbeat because the town was so used to that as a standard.
Yeah. If
you started to let that go down a little bit, you know, your standards, the town were going to figure out pretty quickly that you were just full of shit, basically.
Yeah.
Pete. You know, it's
no, totally.
You know, so it was one thing I had to make sure I did was when I came up here, I kept those standards and then started to try and elevate the offering. You know, down there, you were kind of restricted a little bit, obviously, with the brand, you know. Up here, we're more free. Yeah. You know, we've got great partnerships with Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade Ping, Cobra, Mura. Obviously, Lab Golf has exploded as well. We do so much with them.
I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on them.
Yeah, and I'll show you all that stuff upstairs. So we've got great partnerships across the whole spectrum of golf. So that's where I felt like I could elevate more of what the workshop does with different shaft offerings and, you know, and just really push it on, you know, as many grips. And we've got putter grips through there. It's a bit tight, but we've got basically every super stroke and, you know, and that, you know, stuff like this comes down to the new fitting bay. These have got to go upstairs. Hey, Pete, you help yourself. I've got enough of them. I've got enough of them.
Oh, well, I like this.
You like the red, white and blue one, right?
I do like the red, white and blue one.
There's no shock there. You have one of them.
Oh, thanks, mate.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
I'll take a 2. Look at that. That's Callaway's only one. These are special balls.
Good balls.
That's cool, mate. Thank you, pal.
But as I said, it's a good wee workshop. It's I'm proud of it. People are probably going to look at it and think it's messy, but it's organised chaos. I know where everything is.
Well, mate, I've seen your work, and what you put out of here is pretty special.
Yeah, so you know, it's a busy time at the moment.
Doesn't matter to be tidy, does it?
No, as I said, I know where everything is. I'm still chasing my tail. It is just basically me, myself, and I that does it all. Yeah. And that's going to change. I'm going to train up Greg, who's not in today. He's going to do a bit more workshop stuff and a bit more fitting stuff.
Very cool.
I've just started doing wedge stamping stuff as well.
Oh yeah, cool. Look at that.
So yeah, well, Titleist and Will Harvey was kind enough to send me their old template. So that just goes in there, and then it's a magnet. it holds it down, and then you just
Lie
stamp
the
away.
face flat on that, and then
you've got high caliber stamps, and just bash away and hope that I spell it the right way.
that would be my issue.
Yeah, or get the letters the right way round. That's always been my issue. So,
Let's see the upstairs.
Yeah, let's go up to the workshop, guys.
That's awesome, mate.
Right, so up to office number 2. So this is, look, we're still getting a bit decorated up the passageway here. It's made it that there's blue skies in Scotland every day.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah.
It's lovely, man. It's stunning.
Exceeded expectations.
Yeah.
It really has.
So this is a fitting room. This is
a fitting room.
Yeah.
So it was, we had Alan Scott.
This is amazing.
Come and do it. He does, I mean, he's the man for simulators in Scotland.
Is he?
Done Hilton Park and stuff like that. He's just done Scottsdale Golf's new facility down in Birmingham.
Oh, right. Amazing.
And
Trackman is obviously what you're using.
Yeah, Trackman IO. So that's the new indoor system, optimized for indoors. So we're
I've not seen them. So
so I think we're in the only second place in Scotland, us and Affordable Golf, that have the duo system.
Yep.
So it's quite cool if I put this on. So the benefit of this system is if you're a righty, it'll pick up. And if you're a lefty, it just automatically switches. So whereas before there wasn't much lefty love.
Yeah.
Now we've made it.
We've got a lefty in the crew here. So.
There you go. Well, we want to be inclusive. You know, I've always said to Bobby, the owner, that I never want to feel like I turn anyone away. And lefties don't get a fair whack at it in the golf industry.
Yeah.
You know, so going into next year when the new releases come out, we're going to hold more lefty stuff.
Yeah.
Because then that way we want to be that go-to place in Scotland for lefties to come and feel like they've got a few more options.
Yeah.
And as I said, this system now just works seamlessly. You know, I don't have to do anything. They just stand, they hit balls into the screen, and I see the data without having to do a single thing. It's just as if they were a righty, which, so this new indoor system's been, it's been awesome actually to use it for the last week and a bit.
Oh, is it? So this is brand new. This is
last Thursday.
Wow.
Literally 15 minutes before the first fit, 11 o'clock in the morning. We finished up at 10:45 getting it ready.
Brilliant.
So I mean, Alan really took the vision of what me and Bobby wanted. And gave us it. It's honestly, we still need storage put around. So this is all still work in progress at the back.
Yeah.
We're currently in discussions with a company about getting sort of a unit for heads here and then all the shafts on the wall.
Yeah.
So then it'll just sort of be a little bit more engaging. You'll see everything that we offer.
So run us through your, the Adam Legg fitting philosophy, because I'm really interested. So, I mean, I'm just a guy who's played a bit of golf, quite a lot of golf when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I have a fairly unique setup that's based on feel rather than numbers. So, I like stiff shafts. I like it just a little bit flatter. I like my woods to be shorter, and it's like it's nothing. Is number led in that? It's more of a feel and a confidence of looking down at something.
Well, my philosophy it takes in a lot what the golfer will tell me.
Yeah,
has to. Ultimately they're the ones swinging the golf clubs.
And is that for all levels, Adam?
To an extent, yeah. I mean, I don't see why a 20 handicapper shouldn't have an opinion on feel.
Yeah.
I
like that. That's cool.
If they feel something, regardless if I think differently, I've got to take it on board. Everyone feels stuff differently, right? I mean, I get it so many times I'll put an iron in someone's hands, this feels heavier. When I've actually lightened the shaft, now they might feel the head heavier. I've got to take on board everything.
Yep.
I have to. I always say I'm a little bit of a translator of the numbers. If the player's engaging and they can tell me what they feel, then it's just up to me to kind of translate that into, right, okay, well, we'll try this one, we'll try that one. And then obviously the goal is improved numbers.
Yeah.
Improved dispersion, Yeah. And if me and the player can work together to get that, then ultimately it's going to tick all the boxes.
Yeah. Where does it get a bit of a grey area when you're like, you can see that there's a technique issue, that the way that they're applied in the club, and you're going, well, it's difficult. You're here to get a new set and you're wanting to buy a new set, but you kind of go, a couple of lessons and some work away, then we could get a much better fitting for you.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I do that. It's as much as I'm a fitter, I still work closely with the guys down at the academy. Right, so obviously Scott Herold, Scott Wilson, Finton, Mike, Andy Cheese, Adele, Clark, all of those guys. I'm still very much, if someone needs to go work on stuff, I'll send them down there.
Yeah,
and we work quite well in the sense that if anyone needs a fitting, I feel for the most part, they send folk up here. I obviously worked with the majority of those names for 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
I know how good they are. They've got great manner about them. They're super at what they do. And I'll be honest with you, for the most part, most of my students or most of my fittings that come in here are students of the guys down there anyway.
Yeah.
It's not out of the norm. When I ask the player, you getting lessons? Yeah, I'm seeing Scott Herold down there. Yeah. Right, that's fine. And the good thing from there is if I see a technical issue, 9 times out of 10, I can just talk to whether it be Herold or
the pro
Wilson
and find out what's going on.
And find out, look, I fitted this around this, are you okay with that? And if they turn around and said, yeah, that's no problem.
That's awesome, man.
That's
a proper full service.
It is. And, and even if it's not the guys down at the academy, it might be someone else that I know. And I've got no problem talking to their pro, and if there's any concerns. 9 times out of 10, I don't have to.
Yeah.
But like Finton and Scott send a lot up, and Mike as well from the St. Leonard's program.
Yeah.
So, there's always group chats, and I can always talk to Finton about what's he working on with a particular student, what's the expectation, what's he wanting.
Yeah.
These guys are clued up. I'm never going to treat them like they don't know anything about equipment, right? And the same way that I'd like to think they won't treat me like I don't know anything about the golf swing.
Yeah.
And I'll see technical flaws. And for the most part, you can work around it. It's fittings. You're always trying to work a little bit with a crystal ball.
Yeah.
You're trying to see where the player could be if they make changes. Yeah. So you're trying to make sure that the club has longevity, Pete, right? And that's the key thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Golf clubs golf clubs are so expensive that the last thing you want to do is pawn them off a £500 driver, knowing that in 6 months they're going to need another one. I couldn't do that. And I won't do that. That would never be the way I would fit. So if I'm faced with that situation where it is purely, look, you need to go away for a lesson, so be it. I'll say that to them. I'll say, look, come back. Yeah. Go see such and such, and then we can have a look. And I think the customer admires the honesty. I think there's still not a bad reputation, but there's still a little bit of reputation that club fitting is just about getting the sale. Yeah. It's not for me. Yeah. It's as much as my boss would like, it's and you've got there's revenue to be made, of course there is, right? It's got
to be a commercial model,
But there also has to be a reputation that you want to have, like and you want to have honesty. And I think that honesty has probably led to me having more sales. Just, the customer I think so.
Over a longer period of time.
I think so. Now, what helps as well is, look, modern drivers and stuff are so adjustable that if it's on one setting and they make changes, you can alter.
You've got a chance.
Of course. 9 times out of 10, you're playing with 4 or 5 different lofts that's in that player's hand. So if you fit them for 10.5, you'll be able to bring that down. Yeah. Or if you fit them for 9 and they end up launching it a little bit low, you can loft it. Yeah. Right? What I always say to players, if they're local or if they can come through, even things like irons, loft and lie, that's a 10-minute job for me to alter that. So if something changes, if they start swinging a little bit shallower, they need flatter lies or a little bit more upright, if their pros said, go see Adam and just get these bumped up, it's all part of the service.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to turn around and say, right, okay, we need another fit. I'm going to charge you for the fit. I'm going to charge you for the adjustments. It's all part and parcel. You know, it's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
You know,
That's cool.
And then beyond that, this is kind of what I said to you downstairs. My model is a little bit different in the sense that I can do both a stock fit and a bespoke fit.
Yeah. So run me through that.
So what I mean by that is obviously you go down, you look downstairs, you see a Titleist driver for 579, right? So there'll be an expectation for most customers that they'll come in and that'll be the driver cost. What I can do is I can fit within that. So Titleist will have X amount of shafts that will be classed as stock, right? And 15 years ago, that would have only been 2 or 3 shafts. Now it's a massive expanse, right? There's so many more options within that stock price and that shelf price. But what I can do above and beyond that, if I get sort of more elite players in that maybe need a touch more, I can fit that as well. So what I've got is, if we use Titleist as kind of the reference point here, a lot of this would be kind of stock stuff, right? And when I don't, and again, stock gets a bad rap. People think stock means cheap. It's not. These are still high quality shafts, and this is part of the reason that drivers have gone up in price. You know, if you like that, so the Has Black Gen 5, that would be the same one that would go in the tour truck. Right? So if you buy a 579 driver with that in it, you're getting a hell of a golf shaft. Right? It's not a cheap, flimsy thing, right? But what I can do differently, if there's something that need out width of quote unquote stock offering, I then have all these upcharge shafts. That this would then be a build by me. So I have universal adapters that fit any head, and then I can start diving in. You know, you got the classic sort of DI. You've got new Ventus
stuff,
stuff like that. So I can then start to go a little bit more in depth with the shaft offering. And okay, the price is going to go up, but for performance, we might see something better in all of that. So, I mean, you're talking, what, 80, 90 different options, and there's some more over there. I've probably got over 100 different upcharge driver shafts. And then I've got same for fairway woods. So again, universal adapters. And then driving irons and hybrids.
Jeez.
So I can start to hone in a little bit more if need be. With irons, I'm trying to do the same thing. So with irons, you'll see a lot of fitting places will go to a universal adapter, a little bit like what Mura supply. So Club Connects, which is a bit chunky and ungainly. It's a good system. It does a job. But I much prefer to use the OEM's own fitting service or fitting attachment, right? So what I do is it's far easier for me to have one shaft 4 times fitted with each supplier's attachment than have one shaft and then have to prep these heads like other fitting places do, because it's also when I've got to think of time, when can I do it? And like Club Connects, that's not a simple process to fit that on. Chances are, is because of the weight of that and the weight of the attachment, you've got to cut the hosel, drill out the head a little bit more. So the extra weight you're adding on, you have to take out the head. So if I was to do that for a T100, a T150, if I had to do that for every iron head, I'd be the team. And I'm not knocking it, because there is places in Scotland that have a team to do that. Fantastic. But for me, I've got to think, what's the quickest way to do it? And this is the way I tend to do it, right? So I've got extra iron shafts that, again, the companies don't offer, that if I go into that, I would then order the heads, order the shafts, and build it on site. But again, for the most part, the companies are offering so many good iron shaft options, I don't need to do that. You know, I tend to find that their wood offering might not be as extensive as their iron shaft offering, so that's why I've got these extra shafts.
One thing I'm interested in asking you about is, you've been doing this for a while, and there seems to be, you know, just a massive movement with this like speed obsession. You know, we're down, I think Sunday we went down hit balls, and there was a female college uni player. She looked like a great swing, and she hardly had any balls out, and she had a speeds
one of the wee radar
things, and that, you know, everyone's like obsessed with it. I get it. You know, the clubs and the courses are certainly promoting you have more distance. But that must have been a massive change you've seen in like fitting. You know, people are just, they're almost not kind of caring about dispersion. I know they will be to a certain extent, but it's just like, let's get, you know.
It's juniors.
It's juniors.
Honestly, junior. Yeah. So young Kylie McDonald, great player, plays for Scotland. I think Kylie is either 13 or 14. Driver club head speed when she's doing speed training about 108. And she's 13, 14 years old. Abigail May, another one from town. She's already signed for a Division 1 team in America. Again, I mean, a year ago, 2 years ago, she was 106, 107 with the driver.
Right.
And she was 15, 16. So speed, I mean, speed is just part and parcel now.
Yeah.
One of Finton students, Finley Hazelwood, he cruises at 120, 17 years old. You know, I guess the philosophy changed, I would say, probably about 8 years ago, where it was, when they're younger, train speed and then train accuracy.
Yeah.
Whereas
once they've got the speed,
20 years before that, it was just train accuracy.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, these days, the stats would suggest that if you're 300 off the tee, doesn't matter where you are, you're going to gain strokes on the rest of the field. Mm-hmm. You know, I always reference, what was it, Bubba Watson during his sort of heyday. Before he even teed off, he was already a stroke a day better off the tee than anyone else just because of his distance. Mm-hmm. Don't quote it, not exact as that, but it almost worked out. If he played the 4 days, he was almost 4 strokes a week better just because of his distance off the tee. We've seen the advantage of it, you know, and coaches, you know, coaching juniors are just aware that let's just get them hitting it quick, hitting it far, and then worry about the accuracy from there. Yeah. So certainly for juniors, I'm finding I'm needing more of these sort of high-end shafts.
Really?
Because they're needing the stability because they're kind of close to tour speed already.
Yeah, wow.
You know, and I have to reference tour average speed a lot more than I do. You know, I had a...
What sort of driver tour average,
I think
club head speed?
I think it'll be about 115 now.
Is it? Yeah.
113 to 115, maybe even slightly higher than that. I mean, I had a 16-year-old kid in here the other day who's rugby daft, only plays golf during the summer. His 7-iron was 91 miles an hour. And he hardly plays golf. Now, I've got to evolve my fitting. You know, if I've got a 14-year-old kid who's swinging it fast, I've got to be considerate of weight, because while they've got speed, they're probably not strong.
Yeah.
You know, speed doesn't necessarily have to come from strength. It can just be technique, fast twitch muscles, all that sort of stuff. So that's the difficulty is keeping the club light enough but stable enough.
Yeah.
Because historically, stable was always meant heavy.
Yes.
You know, and that's what the manufacturers are trying to do. How can they produce something super stable but lightweight? You know, I mean, Autoflex probably kind of kicked off that whole concept of really super lightweight shafts. Yeah. It was always there, but that was the one that kind of came out on scene, and it was, it was pink, it was a bit funky. Yeah. Adam Scott used it, Michelle Wee, all that sort of stuff. You kind of got people talking about how can we lighten the equipment to get us hitting it further. You know, so from that it's evolved a little bit, but as I said, the challenge with the juniors these days, and that's probably the regular golfers, is giving them a club that they can control, but still stable enough to get their launch conditions in the right window. So it's always, there's a challenge. Yeah. It's always a challenge in terms of fitting. But yeah, as I said, with the right amount of options, you can do it. You
can get there.
You can do it, you know, and that's all I'm trying to do in here is give the town as many options. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, love that. Right, lab putters, and then we'll get out your hair.
Lab putters.
Yeah, so...
a revelation.
Yeah.
Honestly. Oh.
So, do you use them?
I have had, I do. I have had a DF3 counterbalance for a wee while. And actually, Big Greg's got one over in San Francisco now.
Okay.
And he loves it.
Right.
For me, I read about Lab 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Loved the concept. I was always a fan of a centre shafted putter anyway. To have something that didn't want to move, I was like, well, it sounds a no-brainer in my opinion. The whole zero torque concept is taken off massively.
Huge. I see all the companies are trying, or everyone's trying to do something.
I saw 2 nights ago, Peretti have got their own version now. Right. I think, well, Scotty do have one, but it's kind of tour only.
Yeah.
It's here to stay as a concept. You know, whether Lab maintain their market share, that will be up to what the other companies do.
Are you seeing now? I'd imagine you'll probably have a Sam or something.
Yeah, I got Sam Putt Lab.
Yeah, Sam Putt Lab. But are you seeing stats on it that this is helping a wider range of players, better players?
You
need to have an understanding of putting to use it.
For me, different strokes for different folks. I've seen players come in here that have said I want a Lab, and then I look at the stats and it's like, well, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
You know, and then I've seen
they're maybe just a rotational type.
Yeah, they're just used to feel. So when you take the torque out of the putter, if you take that want to turn out of the hands, you're going to lose feel, and that's what I hear from a lot of people is there's got no reference of the face at that point, right? Now that'll change, and that, to be honest, Pete, that's a very small percentage of people that try the Lab.
Yeah.
For the most part, people feel that it's more stable. The amount of people that I get in here that say they feel their putter twist or it kind of goes a figure of 8 and they want something a bit more stable, they've read on Lab. That's where it helps that player. Other people love the custom element of it. You've got 8 different colours, you've got any alignment you want, you do any length, any lie angle.
Yeah.
It's really...
Seen that.
It is what golfers have been wanting for so long.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Scotty are so renowned for their custom options, their custom shop, but it's not easy to get that stuff, or you've got to send, you know, if you want one of your Scotties customized, you've got to send it over to California and that sort of stuff. But with Lab, you can order, if you want a red putter with a certain alignment, you can. You know, and you know, you can get something that looks like that.
Wow. And the shaft goes into the side of the grip.
Yeah, so you've got shaft lean built from the head, and then you've got the press grip that helps get the hands just set at the face, if not a little bit ahead.
That's just awesome.
But there's different options as well. If you don't like that shaft lean, they now do...
Feels like you would just point and hit.
Yeah,
you know, just...
Yeah. So they do now, this is the new one, the Oz,
that
you can get with zero shaft lean. So if you want just to put a stock grip on there and have the hands in a more neutral position. Because there's some players, again, if I reference, let's say Scott Herold, for example, who we all know has a nice little forward press in his putt, in his putt and stroke. If he went for something like that, that's already pressed, too much. You'd end up hitting the ball into the ground.
Yeah.
So for someone like Scotty, the zero lean option, if he was wanting a Lab, would pretty much be the only one he could look at the moment, because he'll do his own wee preset. So there's a lot that goes into a Lab fitting now. It's not as simple as just measuring length and lie. Head weight, as I said, colour alignment.
A lot more weight in head.
Yeah, so that's a heavy head option.
Yeah.
You know, so that's, again, I think it's about, let's say, sort of 10 grams heavier, I think, either side. So you got standard head weight, light or heavy.
Okay.
And then, you know, for the Rangers Daft, you can get the blue head. So that's the same spec as Adam Scott.
Yeah, is it?
So he only uses a 45-inch broom, although he's quite a tall lad.
Yeah.
But again, because of the regulations, you want it away from the chest.
Yeah.
So whereas brooms used to be sort of 48, 49 inches, because they were tucked in.
Yeah. That's amazing, you know, that.
Yeah,
the broom handle feels less stable for me.
Right, okay, yeah.
You know, just like that just feels weird, because I've never used it, but...
And then I've got to be kind to the other side of Glasgow, if you want a green one.
Touch that. So I've not seen that shape before.
That's the Mez Max, yeah. So the whole premise, right, is obviously zero torque. So best marketing tool in golf.
Yeah, I've seen this. It's amazing.
If you think about it, though, it's like it just demonstrates what the putter does. We all apply our own torque and force to the putter anyway, so we'll stop it from twisting. But when I put that in there, it doesn't move.
Yeah.
And if I was to go put something like I'll go get a TaylorMade Spider. Now that's just that's what that toe hanger wants to do in free motion.
Yeah.
Of course, when we grip it,
yeah,
that's what we feel.
Yeah.
And what Lab does is takes that away to keep the face stable to the path.
Yeah.
But it's always quite funny to see. And players are like, oh my God, that's what some players will say, that's what I feel.
Yeah.
Is the putter wanting to do that?
Yeah.
And a blade obviously does it even more. But like I said, you pop the Lab in and it doesn't move. So it's been great product for us. We got on early. I think we were one of the top accounts in the UK last year, if not like second, maybe third.
Wow.
Biggest account. There's sort of...
And is it California?
Oregon.
Oregon, is it? Wow.
Is where they're based. Sam's the mad scientist.
Yeah.
So up on the west coast there. And look, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon.
No. I mean, you can see it on the telly there. I mean, there's a lot of guys using them now.
Yeah.
A lot of players, just every week it seems, he wasn't using that the other week. And,
No, they come in and out. I mean, I think at the Players, the Mez Max was the most played model. So I'm not quoting brand, I'm just quoting model.
Yeah.
So the Mez Max, there was 4 of them in play and there was 3 DF3s in play.
Right.
So if we're just looking at model, Lab had number 1 and 2 locked down at the Players.
Right, wow.
So, obviously brand-wise, Odyssey still kills it on a weekly.
Right.
They've still got the most, and then Scotty will be behind them. And
right.
If not, someday it'll be the other way around sometimes. But if we're talking pure models, it would have been 4 of them in play, Mez Maxes, and then 3 of them.
Right.
And obviously JJ Spawn came within a ball and a half roll of winning on the 18th on Sunday using his DF3. So, they're getting a lot of attention.
We're doing Bogey Train Golfing X, just something that generally niggles you within the game. It could be from a fitting point, a playing point, anything. Golfing X. So there's been. I'm not going to give you a for instance because then.
No. I guess as a fitter, and this will be something that a lot of fitters will hear, is when I ask what a player's handicap is, and they say their wife. That or their swing. What's your handicap? My swing. Right, okay, no, that's...
You've not heard that one before.
Exactly, a million times over.
Right.
Or their wife. It's like, what's your handicap? My wife. Like, come on, mate.
I know. Get better chat.
Okay, I'll ask you again. What's your handicap? Are we 20? Are we 10?
Yeah.
That's, as a fitter, that's my golfing nick.
Yeah.
I'm pretty tolerant to most things, Pete, but that bugs me.
Thanks, pal. Cheers.
Enjoyed
I appreciate that, mate.
No,
that was great.
Good. I mean, your knowledge is just off the charts, mate. I just love it. So for the kind of proper geeks like us, that's just amazing.